After the failure that was the 57th expedition, the Survey Corp were backed into a corner. Their public support had completely eroded. The government had summoned Erwin to answer for his failures, and Eren was to be handed over to the military police. Instead of accepting defeat, the Survey Corp took a massive gamble, using intelligence gathered from the failed expedition, as well as astute observations from Armin. They narrowed down the identity of the female Titan to a single target, Annie Leonhart, and formulated a plan to capture her. Their intelligence proved correct. Annie was indeed the female Titan, but the resulting battle devastated the Stohess District, and just when it looked as if all the destruction might have been worth it, Annie encased herself in a crystal shell, denying the Survey Corp their victory. But what if the scouts had been quicker? What if they captured Annie before she created a crystal shell? How would that change the story of Attack on Titan? Annie not creating a crystal shell means she's immediately captured by the scouts. Erwin would present her capture as evidence of how effective the scouts are, and he's successful. No matter how much the government may disapprove of his methods, the Survey Corps is the only branch of the military that's achieved a victory over the Titans. However, the initial goodwill generated by Annie's capture immediately gives way to tension and suspicion. The Survey Corps wants to immediately interrogate Annie, while the military police demand she be handed over. Rod Race and the Royal Council know their narrative about the walls and humanity's history would collapse the instant Annie talks. Kenny also warns Rod Race about Annie, explaining that he recalls being followed by her several years ago. They can't rule out the possibility that she knows who the true king of the walls is. On the Survey Corps side, it's no secret that Erwin distrusts the government. They silenced his father and countless others for pursuing the truth. He interprets their current demands as a continuation of those efforts. The deadlock over Annie's fate is broken by news of the Beast Titan attacking. Fearing that Annie might be killed while the scouts are responding to this threat, Erwin decides to take her with them. He's willing to risk Annie possibly escaping over the military police assassinating her. Erwin's decision puts Rod Race in a tough spot. Rod's power comes from the nobility believing he possesses the founding Titan. If his cover is blown before he captures the founding Titan, it would ruin him. This is likely why Rod Race did not try to capture Eren in Season 1, but took aggressive action in Season 3 after Eren revealed the Founder's power. Rod's fairly certain that Annie does not possess the founding Titan, so he wants to avoid a public confrontation with the scouts. However, not silencing Annie would risk her exposing the truth about humanity's history. Rod decides to authorize the Interior Police to secretly capture Annie, while pressuring the Royal Council to keep the identity of the female Titan a secret. Because Rod is acting cautiously, Erwin manages to reach Walrose before the Interior Police can catch him. In Season 2, Erwin gained a number of volunteers from the military police as the operation in Stohess opened their eyes to the truth. That does not happen this time, so Erwin relies on the garrison to strengthen his numbers. He leaves Annie in Pixis' care and moves to join Hanji in recovering Eren from the armored Titan. It's worth noting that Pixis isn't necessarily an ally to Erwin. He is loyal to Paradis and absolutely does not want to ignite a civil war inside the walls. Pixis is initially shocked to learn that Erwin initiated a battle inside Stohess, then smuggled Annie to Walrose. Erwin has to convince Pixis to not simply hand Annie back to the military police. Due to the urgency in recovering Eren, Pixis agrees to not discuss Annie's fate immediately, though he gives Erwin a warning. He won't volunteer Annie to the military police, but if the military police comes to his door, he'll hand her over to avoid igniting a civil war. Fortunately for Erwin, Rod's cautious approach means Pixis does not need to act on his decision. Outside of these political maneuvers, the events of the Clash of Titans arc plays out the same. Mike is killed by Zeke, the cadets are trapped in Utgard Castle, and Ymir reveals her Titan powers. The reason these events remain unaffected is because the scouts who were involved in Stohess spent half the arc traveling to Walrose, so the news that Annie was successfully captured did not impact the struggle against Zeke's Titans. The operation to recover Eren plays out the same, only the garrison suffers casualties instead of the military police. The changes to the story resume during the Uprising Arc. The royal government publicly accuses the scouts of harboring the female Titan and demands that Annie be handed over alongside Eren and Historia. Erwin meets with Pixis to explain why Annie's important for humanity's future. Erwin emphasizes Annie's connection to Reiner and Bertolt and how it could reveal what lies beyond the walls. Convinced, Pixis agrees to transfer Annie to the Survey Corp HQ, which houses the new Squad Levi. Levi leads Annie's interrogation. He's still furious about the loss of his squad members to her rampage. Unlike in Season 4, where he had years to cool down and was occupied with stopping the rumbling, here his anger is fresh, and there is nothing distracting him. The former cadets are somewhat jaded after learning Reiner and Bertolt were traitors as well. When they question Annie, there are no emotional outbursts. Instead, they ask hard-hitting questions about what Annie was thinking as she befriended them, knowing she was responsible for everything. Now let's discuss how Annie would respond to the questioning. Annie's mental fortitude is no joke. She maintained her sanity despite being conscious inside a crystal shell for 4 years. Combine that with her singular drive towards reuniting with her father and her training as a warrior, we can assume she would not break from interrogation. The main question is whether she would volunteer information. Annie only cared about capturing the founding Titan because it offered the quickest path to returning home. Unlike Reiner, she does not display strong loyalty to Marley, nor does she display any particular animosity towards Paradis. In our storyline, Annie remained silent while with Erwin because she had faith Reiner and Bertolt would rescue her. Now isolated and under relentless interrogation, she recognizes that cooperating with Paradis might improve her chances at survival. The next question is, what information does Annie choose to reveal? To ensure her survival, she does not reveal anything about Titan transferals or about the warriors in case Reiner and Bertolt return. What she does reveal is information about the outside world, the origin of Titans, and the status of Eldians outside the walls. Annie would present herself as a source of information on Marley and as a potential dual agent. Eren's crystallization training still happens in this storyline. Hanji got the idea of using Eren to seal the breaches from the female Titan leaving behind hardened skin. Throughout the training, Hanji questions Annie about how her Titan can harden its skin so easily. Annie offers offers to instruct Eren, as she believes her value in teaching Eren crystallization is key to her survival. However, Squad Levi does not let Annie transform for a demonstration, as they consider it too risky. Instead, they have Annie instruct Eren verbally, though despite her guidance, Eren struggles to make progress. Their training is cut short when the military police raid the Survey Corp HQ. From that point, the scouts keep Annie with them as they sneak around the walls. Annie is largely sidelined during this portion of the story. She has no information on Rod Race. Levi knows more about Kenny than she does, and no scout trusts her enough to let her transform into her Titan. Consequently, even during battles with Kenny and the rescue operations for Eren and Historia, Annie is relegated to the role of a bystander. Annie's presence does change interactions with Hitch and Marlowe. When Hitch confronts the scouts over Annie's supposed death during the Stohess operation, Levi simply lets her see Annie for herself. This leads to Hitch experiencing emotional whiplash, having gone from believing Annie was dead to seeing her alive and learning she is the female Titan. Hitch would have an outburst towards Annie, similar to how the scouts confronted Bertolt over his betrayal. Levi would cut the confrontation short, as the scouts don't have time to allow Hitch to address her grievances. The other events during the Uprising Arc, such as Erwin's trial and Hanji's efforts to persuade the journalist, play out the same. However, things take a turn for Annie following the raid on the race chapel. Up until this point, Annie's survival was dependent on her ability to teach Eren Titan hardening, and the scout's inability to transfer her Titan to someone else. Once the battle against Rod Race concludes, Eren has a mastery of Titan hardening, and Levi secures a vial of Titan serum. Following Historia's coronation, the scouts make plans to transfer Annie's Titan to someone else. The next question is who Erwin decides should receive the female Titan. The answer is Hanji, and here's why. First, only a handful of veteran scouts remain, and not all of them would benefit the scouts as Titan shifters. For instance, giving Eren the female Titan would offer diminishing returns, as he's already a Titan shifter. Similarly, Levi and Mikasa are powerful enough with ODM gear. Hanji, on the other hand, is a veteran scout whose combat power would greatly increase as a Titan shifter. Additionally, her dedication to understanding Titans means she'd be the best at drawing out the female Titan's abilities. Shortly after Hanji receives the female Titan, the expedition to retake Walmeria is announced. Going into Shiganshina, the scouts are significantly more powerful than their original counterparts. Their primary weakness was only having one Titan shifter. If Eren engaged Reiner, then Zeke could freely launch attacks from a distance. Alternatively, if Eren targeted Zeke, then Reiner could freely massacre their horses and then flank the scouts. With Hanji as an additional Titan shifter, not only is this weakness mitigated, but the scouts also gain the element of surprise. The warriors are only expecting Eren, not the female Titan. After Eren seals the outer breach and the warriors reveal themselves, Erwin instructs Hanji to support Eren against Reiner. Erwin wants the pair to quickly defeat Reiner so they can both flank the Beast Titan while the scouts mount a frontal frontal assault. The plan works flawlessly at first. Eren was more than a match for Reiner in Season 3, so giving him the female Titan as backup turns the battle into a one-sided beatdown. However, after Reiner is brought down, he lets out a roar, and in response, Zeke throws Bertolt into the battle. Upon seeing the female Titan, Bertolt immediately understands that Annie has been killed, and his calm demeanor is replaced with anger. He understands why the scouts did it, but it doesn't calm him in the slightest. Bertolt still talks to Armin, but instead of being somewhat cordial, he's overtly hostile, and after he fends off Mikasa's attack, Bertolt transforms into the Colossal Titan. Even with the female Titan, the scouts are helpless against the Colossal Titan's power. From atop the walls, Erwin commands Hanji to withdraw and lead the assault against the Beast Titan. In her place, Levi will command the battle against the Colossal Titan. Shortly after, Erwin gives his speech, and the scouts launch their suicide charge. Zeke's desire to throw a perfect game, and the scouts firing flares masks Hanji's approach. She reaches Zeke much faster than Levi did, saving most of the scouts except for Erwin and those killed in the initial volley. Zeke is quickly overwhelmed and captured by the female Titan and a large contingent of scouts. He shouts for his Titans to aid him, but the scouts being on horseback quickly disperse, and Hanji as the female Titan outruns them. Against Bertolt, Levi takes control of the situation when Armin struggles under the pressure. Knowing Erwin plans for a frontal assault on the Beast Titan, Levi's primary objective is delaying Bertolt. He uses a strategy similar to John's, continuously attacking the Colossal Titan until Armin can spot a vulnerability. During the battle, Eren still gets kicked into Walmeria, and Armin notices the Colossal Titan steadily losing muscle mass. But Armin's strategy of baiting Bertolt into releasing steam does not work. Bertolt's focus on avenging Annie prevents him from being distracted by Armin's resolve, so he swats Armin away instead of trying to burn him to death. Against Reiner, the battle plays out just like it did in Season 3, only this time, it's Levi assisting Mikasa in delivering the finishing blow. In this storyline, Levi is equipped with the Thunder Spears that Hanji originally received. By this point, it's now Bertolt and Peak versus the main cast and a handful of rookie scouts. Bertolt's Colossal Titan is as unstoppable as ever, but the situation still favors the scouts. They have already completed their objective of sealing the breach in Shiganshina. They managed to capture the armored and beast Titan, plus they did so while preserving their horses. Instead of the warriors trapping the scouts, it's now Bertolt who's trapped in Shiganshina. The scouts exploit the immense energy required to maintain the Colossal Titan by launching continuous attacks, which forces Bertolt to continuously emit steam. And while this is happening, Hanji attacks Peak each time she attempts to extract Bertolt. The end result is a decisive victory for the scouts, with Peak being the only warrior to escape. However, because the scouts already used their Titan serum to give Hanji the female Titan, neither Armin or Erwin can be saved. This effectively concludes the series. With the loss of the Beast, Armored, and Colossal Titan, Marley collapses after the Mid-East Alliance attacks them. This results in a power vacuum that distracts the world and buys Paradis time to fortify the island. When the scouts return home, Eren unlocks Grisha's memories, but chooses not to act on them. With the island secure and his friends safe, there's no reason for him to flatten the world. Zeke tries to convince the scouts to bring the volunteers to the island, but his efforts fall flat. Without the threat of the world attacking them, there's no reason for the scouts to take a risk by trusting him. So Reiner, Bertolt, and Zeke remain imprisoned until their time runs out. But what do you guys think? How would the series unfold if Annie had not created a crystal shell in season 1? Leave your comments below, and I'll see you next time.